he was just piling in these pressure washing jobs over the weekend. Me and the kids did not see him for first couple years of the business. It was really hard.
When you were starting it and you were working a full-time job still, how did you juggle those things and make it work?
It was tough. We had newborns and I was working 7 days a week for probably 3 years straight.
And we just kind of got to that point, like he said, with the contract where it was like, okay, this is a step where we either take on this job and we can make our business just shoot off and grow, or we can stay, at my 9-to-5 desk job and just keep kind of doing this on the weekend.
What would y'all tell somebody who is in the home service industry? They're trying to start their business. Maybe they are working a full-time job right now.
Most business owners dream of landing that one big contract, but very few ever get it because not everyone has the guts to make that one decision Matt and Haleigh made, the decision that changed everything.
Welcome back to the Built Local podcast. Today we have Haleigh and Matt from HPWS Services out of Flint, Texas. How y'all doing today?
Doing good. Glad to be here.
Yeah, no, well, we're super excited to have y'all on. For anybody who doesn't know where Flint, Texas is or what HPWS Services is, tell us a little about your story and about your business.
Yeah, so this is our ninth year in business, and I was working a desk-time job, working behind 3 computer screens, designing blueprints for a construction company, and I've always been a hands-on type person. And I was like, man, I got to do something. I can't sit at computer screens all day. So got a pressure washer and started doing some houses. And I was like, man, if I can't do residential, why can't I do commercial? And then it just kind of snowballed. And that was 2017. And then in 2018 or 2020, I got so busy where I just couldn't keep up between, family and work, 2 jobs. And so we had to make the decision. And luckily, God blessed us with a really big contract at a resort. And, I said, okay, that's our sign to, take this full force. And so we've been full force, full time now for 5 years. Haleigh's been on, she, I kind of handled a lot of it for the first few years, and she's been a big help, the last, 4 or 5 years when we, took it big, and she's been a big help. So it's been really good to work alongside her and doing this together. So it's been great.
Yeah, for sure. I've got to ask, people always ask Carly and I, like what it's like working together. What is it like working together? How's that for y'all's relationship?
I mean, there's touchy times, it's, when, but it's good. I really enjoy it. And a lot of people, applaud us on, being able to do that together, because she stayed at home for a long time. And, but now that, she's been on helping, and she does all the admin stuff, and I kind of do the operations stuff. So we make a good team. And I don't know if you have anything you want to say about that.
I enjoy our lunch date.
Lunch dates, yeah.
I think that's vital when you're running a business as a couple. Just squeeze in a little lunch date when the kids are at school. That keeps us going. But yeah, I came in and kind of brought a little bit of structure into it. And now I kind of handle the customer side of it and the communications, and he runs the crew, and it kind of just works out.
Yeah, Carly and I snuck away yesterday for a little lunch, and it is nice to have some time. And we have to kind of sometimes separate our caps, right? This is husband cap. This is like, what are we doing here? What are we talking about? But it has been great for us. We work together so much. Well, she worked from home as well before, and so we were already together 24/7. Might as well talk about, Anyways, going back to that big commercial contract, what percentage of y'all's business is commercial versus residential right now?
I would say we're probably about 60-40, because we primarily do there's a big healthcare system, UT Health System in Tyler, and I've got a full-time crew over there Monday through Friday. They're working in the hospital. And so in 2021, we kind of restructured the business, because we added a few services like the parking lot striping, and we were just doing pressure washing at the time. And at that resort, I was getting asked so many questions of like, hey, can you do this? And, can you not really handyman stuff, but different type services. So I added the parking lot striping, and I got a big general contractor insurance policy. And then, so that kind of led into the hospital. And so it's more or less like a property management maintenance type company is how we're going. And eventually we want to launch it into like a full property management type company to handle multiple commercial businesses.
Wow, that's awesome. And I know people always love the steadiness or the the high ticketness of the kind of commercial contracts, but the thing they don't love is or they don't know how to do is how do you get those jobs, right? And
Right.
so
Mhm.
most of our audience is home service business owners, a lot in pressure washer space, a lot in poop scooping, and
Mm.
those commercial contracts are like can be gold.
Yeah.
You can get a couple that build your business overnight. And so how did you go about getting those big contracts in the early days?
So in the early days, I mean, I was always looking like when I drive around, I had a notes section on my phone and it'd just be building. I would just building and building, building and building that I said and needed, some type of service. And then every Friday I would sit down and I'd make about 50 phone calls. And if I could get, 2 to 3 estimates sent, I was good. And
Yeah.
I've done a lot of trainings for Christmas lights with the
Yep.
big guy in the industry, Josh Trees. And I've taught some other people, but one of my biggest things is like, getting past the gatekeeper, as far as like the receptionist. So my best way to describe how I did that is like I did a lot of research on the company and, I go to LinkedIn and type, operations managers and do my homework before I called, that way if I said, hey, I need to speak to so-and-so, she's going to go, okay, he knows who he's talking to, he
Yeah.
needs to get in touch with versus, hey, this is so-and-so with so-and-so and who's your operations manager? And they go, okay, I'll write your name down. And you don't really get far. That me telling that to other people's, I've heard good feedback. I'd be like, do your research first, go to their team pages and figure out all their information and who you need to talk to. It's a lot easier.
No, that's huge. It's something that's so simple as that. But we know after doing enough cold calls, it's like if they tell you they're going to write it down, or they tell you to
Oh,
shoot
yeah.
you, that's where that deal dies. And
Yeah.
so
It
walking
gets
through it,
maybe the manager, and then
Yeah.
that's it. It doesn't go past like the front desk.
And
For
then
sure.
another really big thing is that I learned off the beginning of the early years was like you send emails, you say how great you are and what you can do and all this. And how we landed that $100,000 contract with that resort was I got the guy's name and I sent him an email and just said, do you have any pressure washing projects out for bid right now? And he's like, yeah, I've got 26 buildings that I need you to come check out. I mean, it was just so simple. I would send these emails and saying, oh, we can do this and we're really reputable and all this. And it would just like no response, like dead. So short and sweet. And, that seems to help a lot too with, getting past those drawbacks from
Yeah.
people. I mean, these people are busy at work and they don't want to sit there and read, they're like, oh gosh, here's another one,
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
you have to, how can I help you without being a salesman? That
Yeah.
type mentality of versus like car salesman type, because
Yeah.
like
For
a
sure.
door-to-door salesman, you're like, nobody likes that, and if selling solar in your door, you're like, come on,
Yeah.
At least in our area, it is
Yeah.
we've got a lot of gated communities, and if they see your truck or you getting out of the car, they're like, nope, that's not allowed here.
Yeah.
So,
Blinds closed, lights
Yeah.
off,
Yeah.
not answering the door.
I think
Yeah.
in 9 years, I've knocked on 2 doors.
Really. Wow.
So it just it's not something that's not the way we get customers. And we used to be big on yard signs, and we just kind of phased out of all that. And now we're doing all digital marketing like with
Mhm.
Gauge. And if you're willing to spend the money on marketing, get your name out there, people will appreciate that versus putting a $2 yard sign in front of someone's $1 million home. The entrance to their community. So
Mhm.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think like going back to the email thing, the first way you can serve somebody and leave with service is not sending them a 600-word email that they're trying to read, just saying, hey, do you have any jobs out for bid? It's so simple. And then you can tell them how great you are and stuff once you're face to face. So, you
Yeah,
can sell it later,
exactly.
but get your foot in the door first. And so when you were starting it and you were working a full-time job still, what is that transition like? Because we have a lot of people that listen to this podcast that are in that phase that, hey, I'm still working 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, but I'm trying to build my junk removal. I'm trying to build my pressure washing company. I'm trying to build my home service company on the side, on the weekends, in the afternoons. And so how did you juggle those things and make it work?
it was tough. We had newborns and I was working 7 days a week for probably 3 years straight. I started to notice that it was affecting my job, which they relied on me to a lot. And I just told myself, I said, I gotta do something. And I mean, in our scenario, we got lucky with that job, big contract. So I just told her, I said, I've got a year to figure it out. We could figure it out after that. I said, it's been good for now. But for someone that, just kind of doing jobs and, they're steady and, they have another job, I would just say, just keep pushing, just keep faithful and everything will fall in line and just do things right. And you have to consciously make that decision of like, there's a difference between someone that wants to start in business and someone that has a true entrepreneurial spirit. They're just driven to be like that. So you really have to determine if you're that type of person. And I feel like I am that type of person, like that. You just have to know that like you cannot let this fail. Like, and I see it so much with business owners, and I feel bad because I applaud them for wanting to take that step to start a business. But if you're not dedicated to it and give it what it needs to grow, it's just not going to work. And you have to do the effort and put forth the work to make it work.
I know a lot of people don't agree with it, but we believe in kind of slow growth a little bit.
Yeah.
So that you don't run into that, just
Yeah.
total debt,
For sure.
where you just have to.
We've never taken out one business loan, and like only the credit cards is just a few materials here and there. We purchase everything with capital through the business. So we did start very small, very small, and just I'd land a good job and I'd buy a piece of equipment and just keep growing slow, because I have seen it to where there's all these people out here, these gurus, and they say make $100,000 a year, pay me $15,000 for this training, and they go home, and not talking bad about those people, but they hit the ground running, and they're so pumped, and then it's too much on them, and then they have to end up selling a $30,000-$40,000 pressure washing trailer that they still owe money on it. So
Yeah.
it's worked out, and some people are different, but we're slow, humble people.
Yeah, no, hey, slow and steady growth is so responsible. It makes so much sense, especially, I think maybe there's one thing if you've built 100 pressure washing companies and 100 locations and you're going to do one more and take on capital, you probably know what you need to do to grow it. But like, especially when you're starting and growing, slow, steady growth makes sense because the goal of business is to stay in business, right? And how do you go out of business? Run out of cash, right?
Exactly.
So trying to run out of cash, and you can do it long enough to actually see the results. So you talked about how people sell the dream of, hey, you can make $100,000 overnight, buy my $15,000 training. And people, when they start that, they're in that phase of like uninformed optimism, right? They think this is the most amazing business model ever before they've ever gone and cleaned a driveway or cleaned the side of a house. Right? When did you kind of get into the business with maybe the uninformed optimism? Because I think probably all of us start the business, no matter what, with a little bit of uninformed optimism. When did you kind of hit that spot of informed pessimism where you're like, man, this is actually a lot harder. This is actually harder than I thought, or this is like going to take a lot of work. What was that moment like for you?
It was probably about, I don't know, maybe a year into it. I was running a Home Depot pressure washer and a pump up sprayer, and I should have slowed down and built more equipment, but I wanted as many jobs as I could. I started getting these bigger commercial projects, and I'm like, if you don't truly know your numbers, if you see A and B, it's like, I charge $500 for this job, and you think in your head, I'm going to profit this much. There's a whole lot more that goes into that. So, and I learned that time and equipment is everything. So I started really breaking everything down, and okay, how do I need to be more efficient? And then instead of focusing on all my efforts into getting jobs, I focused it more on how can I make it more efficient, and the equipment, myself. So I started doing I went to some Houston trainings, learning from other people, and, just slowly gaining my knowledge. And then a few years later is when I was like, okay, that's when we can try to tackle these really big jobs. And that's when we got that. And I see that a lot as, it's the people who, will go in, like I said, and they'll buy these huge, massive setups. And, I'm sure that when they buy them, they're trained on it for like a couple hours or a day or something. But, there's a whole lot that goes into it. And a lot of people think like, oh, you're just spraying someone's house, or, they're building, but, if something goes wrong, it's thousands or, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars that you would be liable for. And, we got insurance pretty quick when you realize, if you just start thinking like when you get employees about workers' comp, and you're like, what if he falls off, or what if he, something happens to him, it's just, you have to start thinking about those things pretty quick.
I think that's where a lot of people in our area at least kind of give up to, because they kind of want to be this one man show. It's either like, I want to be this one man show, or I want to be huge. And they spend all this money to be huge on day one. Or, they are kind of that one man show, and they get to the point where they're like, we're not going to pay insurance and have to get workers and workers' comp. And they just don't see all that kind of goes into it. And then when they do, that's when they're kind of like, this is too much. And they step back.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, and Haleigh, we talked about, you kind of handle the customer side of things. And after seeing all of y'all's reviews and seeing y'all get like 60 amazing reviews in the last like couple months, what do y'all do from the customer experience side to keep those customers happy? How do you create, a pleasurable experience for them? Because like you only have to read 5 or 6 of y'all's reviews to be like, oh wow, their customers love them, So what do y'all do in that front?
In the beginning, I mean, it kind of starts with her creating that relationship. And, I've kind of, when she stepped in, I kind of helped her because she was like kind of shy and she's really opened up about it. But, I told her in the beginning, like relationships are everything. Like, create that relationship. You go talk to someone, like, don't be the first thing you say is what you're there to do. Like, oh, I love your dog, or I love your house is so beautiful. And, you see a bass boat and you're like, oh, you like fishing? And,
That is a big
I've spent
thing.
like 30 minutes at houses with people and only spent 5 minutes talking about what I was there to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's our biggest thing is relationships. And, I'm not going to leave the job until I know that they're 100% satisfied. We're going to walk the property and, before I'll send an invoice, I'll say, hey, if we missed anything, we're going to come back and check, and fix it and make it right. And then Haley's really good about following up with the customers, and all our customers love her. She's gotten really good at, the customer relationship side of it. And
I think, my biggest thing that I feel like I'm the best with is hospitality,
Yeah.
just in everyday life, not just my business. Now, sales, I'm like, you'll have to like hire somebody to go door to door because I won't do that. But the second that I like hit the customer's driveway, it's just like Matt said, I love your house. It just, now it's kind of just a natural instinct, but it is like a genuine relationship that I'm kind of building with the customer before even speaking. That's a good point that he made. Usually when I'm there, it's maybe 5 minutes of speaking on what you're actually there to do. Now, the Christmas light side of it is a little longer because usually I meet with wives and they want to discuss color options and the design. And so I go into their kitchen, lay it all out, and we kind of just discuss what they want. But I think also my biggest thing is just being as personable as you can. So I mainly help. I do help with the pressure washing side, but the Christmas lights is like my baby.
Yeah.
I know all the customers by name. I know, their daughters. I remember where they go to school. The Christmas light side of it is the big thing for me. And one thing that I like to do in their notes is put when that customer was established. So usually if they reach back out to us, hey, I want to get on the early install list for Christmas light, then I'll just turn it a little personable to where it makes them go, wow, you're like keeping count of that, or you're, just little things. And so I'll put, established 2020. And then once they say, okay, I want to get on the list this year, I'll say, great, we can't wait to serve you for the 5th year, 6th year, whatever. And then they're like, wow, I can't believe it's been that long. And so it's just kind of the little things to make it personal and let them know, like, hey, we're not,
care.
We care, and we're not just
there to collect money,
Yeah.
For sure. No, I love that. And people, you say you're not good at sales, but then you talk about, people love to work with people they know, like, and trust, obviously. And it sounds like you're doing a great job at the know, like, and trust factor of it. And so that makes the sales a lot easier. But yeah, going back to kind of the Christmas lights and the pressure washing side of things, what's kind of next for your business? I know you said you're kind of going to a full property management solution, but what are kind of y'all's goals for maybe end of year and then this time next year as well?
We're going to try to, on the Christmas light side, we're trying to grow more every year. We start earlier and every year.
Yeah.
And we're trying to add more crews, like full-time new installation crew and full-time reinstallation crews and a full-time service crew. So we're slowly working towards those goals. And I have a hard time with keeping my hands out. Everyone always says, you can't be the boots on the ground all the time and your business can't grow. That is true to an extent. It's been my baby for so long. And, I like to be, there'll be days I'm here working on the computer and my guys are out working, but, I love being out there. And, as far as the pressure washing side, the same thing. We add a couple more crews and just, keep pushing and slowly going up until, if it starts affecting things as far as, profit margins and all that, then we can scale back. And I think that's where a lot of people fall short is, they get to a certain point and they, like you said earlier, you're running out of cash. If you're running out of cash, you need to scale back. and
Yeah.
then you can work your way back up. It's a constant roller coaster, but I want to change the world.
No, for sure. I think Alex Hormozy calls it knowing where the bodies are buried. Because like you said, you can't be out boots in the ground. You can't be out in the field every single day. But if you know kind of where the bodies are buried in your business, like where are the places that people might be cutting corners, or where is somewhere we might fall short, and just knowing where those places are so you can keep tabs on those areas can
Right.
allow you to kind of step out of it. So no, I love that's good stuff. Well, going back to, I guess, a couple months now, I think it was May or something. Do y'all remember how many reviews y'all had before working with Review Harvest?
I wanted to
Maybe
calculate.
60 or something,
Mhm.
64.
Yeah, I think y'all are right around low 60s. And
Hmm.
now, what has it been like working with Review Harvest?
It's great, especially I believe you were a referral from Gage, if I
Mhm.
Yeah.
don't believe correctly. So we all boarded with Gage, and he's been great, and
Mhm.
we entrusted in him, and he delivered, and anybody that he's going to refer to us, we believe that he's going to do the same. And we were very surprised because we've tried so hard. We've offered discounts, and with Marquet, with they'll send out a review request immediately after the job's done. And
Mhm.
then, Haley's reached out to multiple people, sent like personal emails, texts, and I leave the tech stuff up to the tech people because I know what they're
Yeah.
doing. Whatever you're
Yeah.
doing is working. So
Yeah. I mean,
uh,
it's been to the point where I'll send, like he said, a whole personable message and all this. And I'm like, how did that not work?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. No, and now after just a couple of months, y'all are already at 133 reviews. So you got like about 60 reviews here in the last couple of months. So no, we're really happy to help you there. And what's kind of been your favorite part about working with Review Harvester? What would you say to somebody that's kind of dragging their feet on it?
I would say she's been more in contact with you, so I'll let her
Mhm.
answer that.
Yeah.
Well, you and your wife have been wonderful just with your communication and everything. Really easy to work with. I feel like y'all are a lot like us, like within
Mhm.
your business. And so I love just kind of seeing y'all work together and getting kind of the messages from your wife sometimes and then from you because we really relate to that. So I love
Yeah.
to support something and somebody else that's I can tell is a lot like us in your business. I would say just how easy it is because for me personally, like I mentioned, I've tried so hard and so many things over and over again personally that just did not work.
Yeah.
And this just seemed to work very quickly.
Love it. Love it. Well, we're super happy to help out. What we found is like we would mention on calls that like, yep, you're talking with Carly right now. I'm 2 rooms over and I'm her husband, Clay, and we work together on it.
Yeah.
And we said it. Every time people said it, they were like, oh, that's awesome. Good for y'all. And I was like, we don't talk about that enough. We should probably talk about that more.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
like all the other alternatives out there are either massive venture-backed company with millions of dollars of funding where you're just going to be a number for them.
Mhm.
The results are neither here nor there, or it's just like just some faceless organization that doesn't want to talk to anybody. They don't allow calls
Yeah.
or anything. Just like sign up and use it if you want. So hopefully
Yeah.
we can be a good in between there and provide a personal service. But no, I really, really appreciate y'all hopping on. This has been great to learn more about you and y'all's business. And last thing I always like to end with is what would y'all tell somebody who is in the home service industry? They're trying to start their business. Maybe they are working a full-time job right now, or they're just struggling to grow. What would you give them kind of as a piece of advice to keep going and to grow?
Like I said earlier, I would just break yourself down and really figure out what type of person you are. And
Yeah.
if you need that paycheck every week, then that's the kind of, because we were at the time when we started, we were just making it. So, it was like an extra money thing. And I would just say, look at yourself, look at your life and your finances. And if you feel like you have that drive and that spirit, then just keep pushing and, just make the effort and, everything else will fall into place for you. You can't, it's without effort, persistence, and faith, it's not going to work. So you just got to keep pushing.
I do agree with that. And then just giving yourself, which kind of goes along with what Matt said, giving yourself room to grow and patience and grace, and just knowing that every business has trial and error. So just give yourself grace. Don't be too caught up in this, like making millions overnight or all of these. Because Matt has even gotten into those modes, and we have to take
Yeah.
a step back and just say, look what we've been blessed with so far and where we're at, where we're going. We just run our business a little different, and everybody does. But I think the biggest thing is just patience that has worked so well for us. And then just figuring out, you're learning lessons. I mean, we've been in this 8-9 years now, and we still learn things, every day.
You constantly need to educate yourself, and
Mhm.
nobody's a master of their craft. Anybody, you got to keep learning no matter what. In the beginning, you're watching all the YouTube videos and you're going to shows and all that. But there's no need for that to stop. You can learn something from anybody. So just constantly keep educating yourself and just keep pushing, because
For sure.
if you have the passion and drive, and you can do it. I mean,
Mhm.
anybody could do anything, as long as you're willing to do it. So
For sure, for sure, yeah, and entrepreneurship, especially home services, is not for the faint of heart, It's not for the faint of heart, be ready to work, but obviously y'all are. So thank y'all so much for hopping on. Y'all have a great rest of y'all's day. If you have any questions, for Haleigh or Matt, drop them down below in the comments, and we'll also link to their website and all that sort of stuff down below in the description. So if you are in the Texas area, you're interested, or you just want to reach out to Matt or Haleigh and ask some questions, maybe they'd be open to that. So we'll link their website and stuff down below. And y'all have an awesome one. Thanks for hopping on.
sounds good.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you.
See ya.
See ya.